Afro Fish OG. Welcome in, everyone. It is another edition of Afro in the Know. This is episode 11 of the 2026 run. And so, hope you all doing good. It is the 18th of January. We are already over halfway done. And I am not going to lie, I am so happy because the sooner we get out of the cold, the better.
No doubt.
But today, I have a guest all the way from... I just call it the TikTok land because that's usually where I meet people from. But Professor Hartman, how are you doing?
Doing great. Cold as well. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, and it's freaking freezing here. So,
I'm all the way up in Wisconsin. So,
yikes! Yikes!
Yeah, it's like -2, I think. Right now.
Oh yeah, no thanks. We're like 20, and that's bad enough.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine. Yeah, man, it sucks. It sucks so bad. I can't wait to move. But overall, it's still pretty nice. I mean, in some regards, like there's some benefits of living in Wisconsin. Not much, but there's some. But I want to jump right into this.
Absolutely, let's hit it.
I love doing that. I love jumping right in, but it's not for me because they don't want to hear about me. They're here for you. So, what are you all about, man?
Let's see. So, I've been making video games for about 35 years. I started making games online in 1991, before the web was even invented. So that's pretty, I think I qualify for the OG part of your name.
That was the year I was born.
Yeah, so there you go. My biggest contribution to the video game industry is that I invented the free-to-play business model. I made my first free-to-play game in 1991. And then I brought a free-to-play game to the internet in '96, which is, the oldest free-to-play game on the internet. Sometimes
we'll get models that they use now.
Yeah, free-to-play. Yeah, I made the very first one. In fact, the one I made in '91. I mean, that was 8-9 years before another free-to-play game, other than my own, got made. I tell that to people, and they're shocked, and sometimes they're mad. And I'm like, you gotta understand, like the motivation was very, very different. Like, your average mobile free-to-play game, they want to get you to spend money in the first hour. Like they have a thing, they call it the golden hour. They feel like if they can't get you to spend money in the first hour, you're basically a lost cause. But my motivation was the complete opposite, which was like, I just want as many people to play my games as possible. And I have a saying in our company, if we make our games fun enough that someone plays long enough, eventually they'll buy something. So it's the flip. Like we have the complete opposite idea is that, if they have enough fun for a long enough time, eventually they'll be like, I'll buy a cosmetic or I'll buy a boost or something. You know what I mean? Because they're like, right. Hey, I've been playing forever. And that's really worked out for us. It was the early days of the internet where people thought everything had to be free. So charging money in any way was already difficult. So you had to get creative. Right. And we have customers from, close to 100 countries. So there's currency issues. We have customers from countries that aren't even allowed to conduct business with the United States. So, like we would have customers. I'll give an example. We have players in Iran, and we had one customer in particular. He would wait for a friend to study abroad, and he would give him money and say, "When you get there, will you convert it into USD and mail it?" So we would get cash in the mail, and it was like from whatever Iranian currency was converted into whatever some other currency, what country, UK, whatever. And then they would convert it into USD and then mail it to us. We have people that would go that far to send us stuff. But obviously, if there's something like that, it can't be, that's not an impulse buy. You know what I mean?
No,
that's the opposite of an impulse buy.
That's
so, so we always wanted to have a model where, you didn't have to be in a rush. And also I like the idea that once someone spent money on my game, they loved my game. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't going to have buyer's remorse. I wasn't going to have somebody, the next day they're mad they spent money. So that was my motivation for coming up with free to play. And yeah, now it's weird because it's completely twisted. Most free to play games, some still do. Like I would say, for example, Riot Games. I would say, their games have more of that philosophy. Like, here's our game, fall in love with it, and then once you fall in love with it, buy skins.
Right.
And there are a lot of games that are like that out there. There are some companies that still have what I would call my free to play philosophy, and I love those games. I love that they use that part of the model. So let's see. So beyond that, I have 10 published titles. 3 are currently on Steam, a couple of puzzle RPGs, but our biggest game is a super old school game. It's called Threshold. It is a all text, role play required. It's a MUD, if people are familiar with that term. Basically the precursor to MMORPGs, but it is still running to this day. 30 this summer, and oddly enough, it is more popular now than it ever has been. We have more players now than we ever have, which is why.
Wow.
Yeah, the last few years in particular have been huge for us. And I ask myself why all the time, and people ask me why. And I think what it is that, first of all, I definitely think social media, texting and stuff got people more comfortable with a command line interface or typing, whereas there was a period of time where everything was, GUI and stuff like that. But now, people type on their phones, they type on social media. I think that helped get people more comfortable with text communication.
That's fair.
But then also, I think the biggest thing is we have a really, really good community. Like, we do not tolerate toxicity whatsoever. Harassment, any kind of, now in-character harassment is fine. You know what I mean? Like, you can be whatever. Like if you have a racial problem in character, like Catfolk Canis, that's fine. But any kind of crap like that out of character, nope, you're gone. We don't tolerate that shit whatsoever. And I think people really want positive communities online, and they barely exist. Most video game communities, they put no budget towards policing their community.
No.
And they will develop all these algorithmic solutions that do jack shit. Because the reality is you need a decent human presence to judge human behavior. Even Riot or Steam, they'll have all these algorithms to try to deal with trolls or try to deal with racism and stuff like that. And beyond a few code words, you can't really catch anything. You need a decent human presence. If it's Steam, maybe 100 people. Riot, maybe 100, 200 people. You just got to bite the bullet and hire those people. The reality is that's not that much money considering their income, but the effect on their community would be massive. But as much as I say that, sometimes I regret giving that advice because I don't want them to follow it, because I feel like I reap the reward. I feel like, we benefit from people who play our games just because the community is so good.
Right.
And once you have a great community, it starts to police itself. As much as I police our community, our players police the community 1,000 times better than I do. And the main way I hear about problems is from other players who just simply won't tolerate cheating, harassment, any kind of things like that. They
Which is
see
great. That's good. That's like,
exactly,
you should not tolerate that.
Right. And they don't. And the thing is, I think they have confidence that I'm going to deal with it. See, that's the problem too. Like so many game companies, they will say, "Oh, we don't tolerate, racism, sexism, harassment, yada yada yada." But then people report it, nothing happens. Report it, nothing happens, and then they're like, "Fuck it, I'm not reporting anything." So it's a matter of trust that you have to build with your players, where not only do I trust them, to tell me about things, but they trust me to actually deal with it and to invest the time. And so, unfortunately, a lot of companies won't do that. It's a shame because I play games. I want the games communities that I play in to be fun. And it's funny though, because I continually encounter things in other companies, and they'll piss me off, upset me a lot as a player, and then I'm like, well, this is why I'm doing well. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. It's at the same time I'm like, oh, well, this is no wonder my players are happy because there's shit like this.
No, and that makes sense. I mean, when it comes to like building a community, which is, I think for a lot of people, it's not easy. It's not easy to build a community. Like even just the small one that I've built with through my own platform, it feels like it took forever, and you're very much under scrutiny, to make sure that you hold up to those same kind of ideals that you preach. I've seen way too many people. They start off fine, and if you start to listen to them, and you realize that they're not what they preach.
Right, you're absolutely right.
And I think that I commend that first off, that you were able to build a community to keep themselves like that, because like you mentioned before, once they start to police themselves, I like for my mods, when it comes to my TikTok and stuff, they already kind of know like who I am as a person. We have very similar oh my god, what's the word I'm looking for? Similar morals and standing, so they know that if something comes in, like the rate of, let's say if someone blocks someone, right, blocks and mutes them, it's rare for me to be like, hey, hold up on that. I might have done it like twice through my whole time, and like I enjoy that. Like it honestly, it just makes me feel good knowing that. But like I really also thank you for the subscribe, and thank you for the follow. Is it Mizier? Is it Mizier Mouse? If I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry. But when it comes to the, I was gonna ask that, but you kind of touched on it. When it came to the free to play model, at some point, when you started seeing it change, did you kind of feel like that was to be expected at some point from these companies? Because I think a lot of gamers, they don't, I've noticed, at least from my personal experience, they don't understand the free to play model.
Right.
They just hear free to play and they're just instantly like, they either get upset because they think, oh, it's just microtransactions
Cash grabs. Yep.
Or it's just trash instantly.
Right. Yeah, I definitely did not expect it. First of all, when I first started using it, I was in law school at the time. You know what I mean? Like I thought I was gonna be a lawyer. I thought I was gonna go into politics. Like I had a completely different trajectory. For me, games was just a fun little hobby. So I definitely didn't expect anything. I didn't even know if it was gonna work for me. So that's the first thing. And then definitely I was young and naive. I didn't understand what I know now about corporate power abuse and runaway monopolies and all this, all the things I understand now about business. I wasn't clueless, but I definitely was very naive compared to now. So and the video game business was extremely different also. There were 30 times as many companies, I mean, they didn't have all these mergers and everything like that. It was still, because this is, for Threshold's launch 1996, the internet was still barely for the masses, so the first .com boom hadn't happened yet. Tech Bros hadn't happened yet. Disrupt Everything hadn't happened yet, so I definitely didn't expect it. But you're absolutely right that people have that expectation, and it does bum me out. It bums me out that a business model that, and while I will say this, I want to have some humility. While I do say that I invented it, I think somebody else would have invented it if I hadn't. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like I, came up with the cure for polio or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm the first person and nobody used it for 8 years after me. But I do think eventually it would have been invented. So when I say invented, I don't mean I like think you all better thank God for me or else it wouldn't exist. You know what I mean? I don't mean that. I was just first. But yeah, it bums me out because I do feel like I played a role in it existing, and being popular since I was a pioneer of it. I hate seeing it used abusively. But honestly, at this point, especially, at 50 plus years old, like I hate seeing everything shitty in the video game industry that happens. You know what I mean? Like, and it's such a weird dichotomy because, I was watching something you were talking about today. I don't know if it was a video or a live, and you were talking about how there's people who say there's no good games that have come out in the last 5 years. Let me say, as someone who's been gaming for 45 years, gaming's never been better. Like games, the quality of games that come out is insane, and the quality at which they do everything. I remember when I was playing not God of War Ragnarok, but the first God of War, and the story was so good. I was like, man, movies better watch their ass. We're coming for them in storytelling also, I just thought it was so good, so emotional. The gameplay is getting better. The storytelling is getting better. And even when in this new console generation that's coming, people are talking about $60, $70 games and they're freaking out. And then I have a post on my blog about this. I think it's a 1997 Toys R Us flyer where there's like a Super Mario game for $60 and like an NBA 2K or something game for like $60, $70. I'm like, that's 30 freaking years ago. And that's barely less than you're paying now. You know what I mean? Like in today's dollars, it's like $140.
Right.
You know? So the value that you're getting in video games is still, you just can't touch it in any other form of entertainment. You know, the dollar per hour you're getting in a free-to-play game, in a premium game, is so massive. And that's why I think you see the disconnect between where players will be really active, like, well, this sucks, I'm not going to buy this, I'm not going to pay this, and then somehow everybody does. Well, the reason is because the value actually is there. You know, when video games stop being a good value, when they milk the cow too much and then the value is not there, then gamers will stop paying it. And you see this in some games. You know, you do see this in some really bad cash grab games. They fail.
Right.
You know, but the reality is most of these games, even some of the pay to win games, are still really, really good games.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I would tell players to understand is the games are expensive to make. It has to get paid for one way or another. You know, like if it's free, you could potentially play it for free forever and never have to pay anything. And yeah, these whales get to have whatever they get to have, but like in exchange, you don't have to pay a penny. You know, you could play League of Legends 10,000 hours and never pay $1. Yeah, you won't have a skin, but you have the same game as everybody else. And then the guy that spent 10 grand on skins, you know, he supported you. So there are upsides to you, regular player, even if you're not a whale, because all that game development that happens, all the content that you get to enjoy gets paid for by somebody else. So if you look at it that way, that, hey, in a free-to-play game, I get to enjoy stuff that somebody else paid for me, then you see the positive light. Now, of course, there's pay to win to the point that it's like, why even bother? You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. Like I said, I'm putting aside abusive, truly shitty implementations of free-to-play. But that's what I would say to players. And I think most players see that, which is why free-to-play is, I've seen estimates to it's 75 to 80% of the total revenue in the industry now is from free-to-play. And I think that's why.
Surprised me. I mean, you look at like COD went to the Warzone. You know what I mean? COD went to Warzone. It's free-to-play. Fortnite free-to-play. Minecraft free-to-play. Roblox free-to-play. So, like, I mean, it makes sense. And I think those are the 4 biggest games that come through. Like, so it doesn't really surprise me. I think, you know, it's kind of like when people talk about when it comes to microtransactions and they're like, if these companies wouldn't have put it in, well, this also was with mobile games. Like mobile games had microtransactions like crazy. It was, I said, it's an inevitability.
Right.
It was going to happen at some point.
I see a part of your question I didn't answer. I agree. Yeah. I didn't see it as that, but I completely agree. Also, because the point is, like, it was either that or the price of the game was going to have to go up to like $150, $200 because the game price has not really gone up. And the thing is, as the game developers, you don't want there to be that giant barrier to entry at the front anyway. You know what I mean? Right. You don't want someone to have to pay, to have to sit there and debate. Like the level of debate you have over a $200 purchase is much higher than a $40 purchase. You know, like you don't want people agonizing over their entertainment purchase that much. You know what I mean? Like, no, you'd rather them be able to, like, oh, that looks cool, bam. Oh, that looks cool, bam. You'd much rather that. So they want to keep the entry price low. Well, if the entry price is low, but now games are costing $200 million to make, it isn't. You're absolutely right. That is inevitable. There has to be another flow of revenue. And it's really logical because I remember when I first took microeconomics in college, and they talked about the fact that the whole point of things like coupons and so many other things is you're trying to figure out how much different customers would pay for the same product. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like say it's a gallon of milk. One person would pay $1, another person was willing to pay $5. Well, how do you do that? You can't charge different amounts of money. So you do things like you have a coupon. You know, someone whose time is not as valuable will spend the time to gather coupons, you know, and then they'll come in with the coupons. But someone whose life is super busy, well, maybe they're willing to pay $5 because, you know, they have a high-powered job. They'll come in and they'll pay the $5 and not have the coupon. Right. But that's the same thing with airline seats. You know, they're trying to charge one guy $200 for that seat, and another guy, his company's paying, so he pays $1,000. He doesn't care. You know, that's the nature of so many things in economics is you're trying to maximize, you know, what is the value of that thing to that person? Well, it's different for different people. So microtransactions allows you to do that, but also in a way where the person who pays more gets something. It's kind of nice because in that other scenario, one person got $1 for the gallon of milk and one person paid $5. But at the end of the day, that sucks. One guy paid 400% more for his milk. That's
right.
a bummer. Whereas what if the $5 gallon of milk was a pretty container and you could use it because it was all fancy, and after you drank your milk, you could use it as a flower pot or some shit. I don't know. That's the microtransaction equivalent. You get something for paying more.
I guess also too, like, because I see some games that come in and they're like the live service ones, right?
Right.
Obviously, like, Roblox, all of them are live service. But then you get some ones that come in and they're like, I always bring this one up, like Anthem, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of Anthem, actually. Like,
Yep.
and it recently just shut down. And,
sad.
Do you think a game like that would have done better as a free to play, in your opinion?
Now, this is an interesting one because every single time I watched a stream Anthem, I thought this game looks so fucking cool. Like I thought, and that tells me that you're right. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I feel like every time I watched a stream, that sold the game better than anything. Seeing 1 minute of gameplay of somebody playing it, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is cool." But then I'd be like, "Oh, do I want to play it?" And I'd be like, "Do I want to pay $50? What if it sucks?" Everybody says it sucks. That's the other thing too. When it's not free, if you get a bad launch and people are kind of saying don't buy it, now it's really hard to get people in. And because it's multiplayer, now you're screwed because you can't reach critical mass. And it's like nobody wants to play an online game that's not doing well, know? And so, and then on top of that, you have the cost. I absolutely think, I'm not saying it would have saved it, but I absolutely think it would have had a better chance free to play. Also, that game would have lended itself so well to cosmetics and just, oh my God. I mean,
and that's what got me is like, I went, and before it went shut down, I got it because I was part of EA Play, and I loved it. I had so much fun with just flying around, building the javelins. Like I had like specific names for my javelins. Like I had one that was white and it had these like icicle things on there. So that was Iceberg. I had another one that was like, I think at first I called it was like the one that was like really quick and could do like ninja stuff. I called that one Stinger, but then I switched it to like Ocean Tide. And then like I had another one that was like the Wizard, because it was like the mage one. And I was like, I had so much fun with it. And I thought as a free to play, it would be really good.
And also that would have countered. I thought it was shutting down for like the last 2 years. Every time I would see it, I'd be like, oh, I thought that game shut down. You know what I mean? Like they were dealing with so much doom and gloom for so long. But if they'd been free to play, they wouldn't have had nearly that much doom and gloom. And when I saw a few weeks ago, I saw some people streaming and it had a close down date. I was like, oh fuck, I didn't realize this was finally shutting down. You know what I mean? Like the New Worlds. I mean, that's what we're gonna see. Look what we're seeing with New Worlds. Like their last expansion was their most popular one ever. It was the first time in its life I heard good things about the game, and now January 31st it's shutting down. Like I'm just like insane.
Right, and that's why I think we see with like right now one of the big ones is High Guard that's coming through, right? And I think High Guard is a free to play, if I remember right.
Okay.
It was the only thing that people knew about it. Was I gotta check that shit to make. I don't remember if it's free to play or not. It is okay, cool.
Yeah, looks like it's coming out pretty soon too.
Yeah, and I think I was super stoked at the fact of like it just looked like something. I'm like, all right, I don't know if I'm 100% on it, but I'm.
Oh yeah, it looks cool as hell. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like when I see games that are coming through that are free to play, and I still see like some of the skins in some of those things are like $30-$40.
And I hate that. I hate that so much. I hate when they're that bothers. That's a weird thing that I think it's actually counterproductive to be that expensive because you've lost one of your strengths, which is impulse buy. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, I cut you off though. Go ahead.
No, you good. Because I do believe at some point there is that bit of consumer responsibility.
Yeah.
100%. I'll have gamers come in and they'll be like, there's like $30-$40. And I'm like, I'm not happy with it. But then also don't buy it.
Right. It is tough. Like you're right. There is a consumer because also they're going to use every dirty trick and dark pattern they can think of to get you to buy it, which is okay. Maybe I'm not a fan, even though I'm a lifetime entrepreneur, I'm not a fan of looking at, producer consumer as like, Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like looking at it that way. I much prefer where it's more of a partnership or more of a symbiotic relationship. You know what I mean? Like the producer tries to make the best product or service they can, and then the consumer supports it because they like it. Like I don't like this modern trend of enshittification where everything cool comes out. They try for a couple years to make it really good. They buy up all their competitors, and then they slowly make it shitty. Like I hate that cycle that we're in, this death spiral of enshittification. But yeah, I don't like that. And then they obscure the value with I've seen some people, and there's some movement in Europe to make game currencies illegal. So you have to pay, like if you want to sell a skin, you can't sell it for 317 diamonds. You have to sell it for $30 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, because they want to create clarity. Because there are multiple reasons why you have game currencies. Yeah. Yeah. There are multiple reasons why you have a game currency. The fair reason is because it gives you a lot of granularity to sell things. Also, then you can like give some away. You can have like little ways to earn it in game and stuff like that. And like, so there's a lot of good reasons to have a currency. One of the sneaky ways is you're obscuring the cost of what you're, whenever you've tokenized money, you're making it feel less like spending money. You know what I mean? So that's the sneaky, that's the psychological trick.
And that's where those V-Bucks and stuff kind of
exactly
in, right. Okay, yeah,
right. So like sense. That's why rarely is it 1-to-1. Rarely is it pay $100 for 100 V-Bucks. It's usually pay $100 and get 220 V-Bucks plus 20 free bonus V-Bucks, and then you're like, now your brain has completely lost track of what the dollar value is. So then when something costs 100 V-Bucks, you don't think it's $10. You're like, whatever, it's 100 V-Bucks. V-Bucks is fake money. Yeah. So it's now I also think though there is a small part of that I'm okay with too, because even the consumer doesn't want to feel buyer's remorse. Like people naturally feel buyer's remorse. Like the high of buying things ends shortly after you buy the thing, and then the regret kicks in. And like I think a moral and ethical producer wants to help the consumer not feel buyer's remorse for their benefit also, because you want them to be happy, so there's a certain extent where blurring the line is good for everybody, because then you buy your skin, you don't feel even a slight twinge of remorse, you just feel joy. That's great. However, if it's been done to manipulate people into spending more money than they thought they spent, or to get kids to get their parents' credit card and do sneaky things and not realize how much they're spending, that's when it gets into the the unethical, absolutely predatory range. Like and then I think just in my opinion in general, I think $30-$40 skins in games, I kind of feel like it's counterproductive. I think it's overpriced, bad for everybody. I think people would buy more skins. Like in the early days of League of Legends, they were like $5-$10. You know what I mean? Like, so you could just buy tons of skins. I think that a lot of these companies they've let their greed get to a point where I think they've actually lost sight of what would actually work better. You know what I mean? Like they look at their dollar per person stat much more, or dollar per skin or dollar per sale, I think much more than they would if they looked at like the total. And I think they're also losing sight of the fact that as more people buy more things, they get more bought into your game in general. Like if more people bought, like, I don't know, let's say at $20 a skin, 1,000 people would buy it. But at $10 a skin, let's say 1,800, let's make it worse. Let's make it to the 1,800 people will buy it, right? So you technically made less money, but 1,800 people are that much more devoted to your game because they own a skin. You know what I mean? Like, and now that those people have bought a skin, they already in their brain are, I'm someone who buys skins. So now they're more likely to buy their second skin, because there's, there's a lot of benefits. I think they're looking too short-term and not seeing the long-term benefit of the more invested somebody becomes in your game, the more likely they're willing to stay invested. by playing, by recruiting friends, by buying more things. So that's why I'm not a fan of the $30-$40 skin. I actually think it's bad business. And I think it's too likely to start into those predatory areas.
That makes sense.
So everybody loses in the long run, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you. When it comes to the fact of like the skin prices, and I kind of like the way that Overwatch does it. Is that
theirs was great.
They'll do either you can get the skin upright or you can earn it. Like they'll give you like, hey, you have so many weeks to make 9 wins, right? And after those, if you get in those 9 wins, I get one of their nicer skins. I enjoy that from Overwatch. It's just been a long time since I've played Overwatch, but like I enjoy that faction, and that's why I see a lot of people, especially when it comes to different skins. I think I use like Halo as an example, where it's like they want to be able to feel like they have to earn their way through things again,
right?
And I think I do agree with that. I think more people would feel better if they can have to earn it. I'm fine with people going and spending money on certain things. Like I don't really care, but I do understand from a gamer's perspective, of wanting to earn their money, like earn their skin, earn their armor, earn their
right.
And I think sometimes I feel like we kind of missed that a little bit.
Yeah, I do think you're right. I think we got to this point where it became accepted for cosmetics to be microtransactions. So once that got accepted by the general gamer populace, I think a lot of game companies now only make microtransaction cosmetics. You know what I mean? Like, and I definitely agree. I think that's too far. Like, I think the way you should have it is, I don't know, let's say you put out, just again using random numbers, let's say you put out 10 cosmetic sets of armor a year. If 6 or 7 of them are microtransaction, okay. But if 3 or 4 of them can be earned in game, great. So there's still, and also those can't be the 3 or 4 piece of shit, brown bag, right. Brown sackcloth garbage. Like at least 1 or 2 of those needs to be actually really good, like
something like that big legendary or something.
Right, something that's really hard to get, that takes a lot of effort, and you know what I mean? So then it's like, if you see someone running around in that kick-ass skin, they did something cool, because you gotta have some of those. You gotta have those things that people can mog on each other with because they did something really kick-ass. You got to have some of those. That's what motivates people to keep grinding.
Oh, yeah. I was huge on Olaf in League of Legends. Probably that character's trash now. But I was amazingly obsessed with him, bought like 4 skins. And that's the thing. When you see someone see someone else get that armor, it makes you want to work towards that armor.
Yep.
The most, I would say, probably one of the most famous armor is the Hayabusa armor from Halo 3. When people saw that you could get that Hayabusa, I remember people were going like, I gotta make sure that I get it.
Yeah.
Not me, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was a EOD kind of guy. Like I saw the Tusk on a helmet and I was like, that's the coolest shit in the world.
Yeah.
But it is,
I had in World of Warcraft, vanilla World of Warcraft, the Kel-Sirar sword I thought was the coolest fucking looking sword. I never got it ever. But I thought it was so fucking cool, and it made me want to play the game to eventually get it. You know what I mean? Like, and in later expansions, they made swords with the same skin. And I'll tell you what, it's cool, but it's not as cool as if I'd gotten the real one. You had to do all these raids and kill. You had to kill Onyxia, and you stabbed this other blade in the skull, and all of the process was cool. You know what I mean? Like, you had to have teamwork. And I just didn't have a big enough guild at the time. But yeah, earning that, part of it was not just how cool it looked, but part of it was knowing it was hard to get. And if you saw someone walking around town with a Kel-Sirar, you were like, oh, that guy's pretty badass. He's in a good guild. His guild likes him because you need their help. You know what I mean? Like, just like if someone had a Thunder Fury or something like that in the early days of WoW, like you knew, man, not only does that look cool as fuck, but he's in a cool guild. And his guild likes him enough to like make him a priority. So it has social. Those are really cool too, because now there's social currency attached to it. There's like, not only did this guy do a cool thing, he's popular with his friends and they give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like his guild likes him. I think that's it says something about someone.
No, I think it does. And there is a part of me that does kind of miss some of those aspects.
Yeah.
Some of those aspects of going in and earning stuff. And I know that there's a multiple different games that does that.
Yeah.
But there is that part where it's like, man, just make this earnable.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether it's a skin or it's just like you mentioned, it could be just a sword I get to run around with. Some of the things don't. It can be stupid. Like you could literally have like pineapple grenades, banana grenades. I'm fine with that. Like it's like it's because the one thing that if you want to get a gamer into being able to buy your shit, the first thing they need to say is that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I love it because it's so much fun as to like I said, it's so much fun just to earn your shit. And so after you I'm sure you're still working on games now. Then are you still working on like are you currently working on?
Well, we do have a sequel to one of our puzzle games that we're trying to get out, Rainmaker 2. It's a match 3 tower defense game. The biggest thing that I do is working on our game Threshold. I'm on Threshold every single day. It's funny because you'd think after 30 years, and for me, 33 years, because I worked on it for 3 years before it launched, you would think like, man, aren't you tired of working on that game? And then there have probably been times over the 33 years where I was burned out, but I don't know. I'm in a good phase at the moment. I've been the last couple of years. I think I have loved working on it more than ever. I think there's tons of reasons why. I mean, one reason back during COVID, I actually had spine surgery, and it was the first time where I leaned on our community for support for myself. A lot of people have leaned on our community over the years when they're going through a tough time for one reason or the other. And it was the first time I got to experience from that side how incredibly awesome our community was. And I think that is something huge that really, I don't know, made me appreciate my game and what I've created to a whole different level. And so I came out the other side of that more fired up to work on it than I ever have. And so that's really cool. Also now my youngest daughter has started working on the game a little bit. She's a sophomore in college and she's a computer science major and she started doing some stuff. So the thought of working with her on the game is really cool. Like I'm actually pretty stoked about that.
That's pretty cool.
So that's really fun. And I think that's definitely something that's going to continue to motivate me for the next 5. So if any of our Threshold players are watching, like they're good. I got at least another 5 or 10 years of high motivation in me just for that reason alone. Even though we tried to convince her not to make, she wanted to make video games since she was like 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And we would try to kind of gently talk her out of it just because it's such a brutal industry. I mean, it is like one thing, that maybe it'd be nice if gamers understood is that like especially like you had some other good takes that day, like game devs aren't lazy. Like I wish people understood that like as much as game devs love their job, right now in so many ways it is a shit job. Not mine. I'm lucky I own my own company. I'm my own boss. I'm not going to get laid off. I'm not going to have a great year and get laid off at the same time, which is the shit that happens. I mean, I'm going to call Microsoft out on this one. I think it's absolutely repulsive that Phil Spencer Spector or whatever, I'm forgetting his name right now, could send out a letter to the team and say, we just had record profit, record revenue, record profit, record player engagement, record number of players participated, record games sold, every possible metric record, and then the next day lay off 10,000 people. You know what I mean? Like that's fucking ridiculous. So it's like,
I agree.
If your game is shit, you get fired. If your game is great, you get fired. What's the only answer? Just delay, and don't finish the game. Like you're like Arabian Nights, keep telling another story every night to try to not get whacked. Like
just GTA 6 it, dude.
Exactly. Like that's almost what you have to do. That's the only way to preserve your job in the industry. Like that's a joke. And that they never should have been allowed to merge. That's a whole other issue, but like that's like that's a political overall issue. The video game industry is being hit by problems that are countrywide. Runaway corporate power, runaway mergers, anti-competitive mergers they're bad for everything. The video game industry is hit with that, The difference is video game companies are more visible to their players, I think, than maybe any other industry. I can't think of any other industry where, like, who the fuck knows what goes on at Kraft? You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody talks to anyone at Kraft. You know what I mean? They don't
as long as they're still making my shapes of mac and cheese.
Exactly. Hell yeah. Right. You know what I mean? Like, Johnson and Johnson, nobody, they don't get on podcasts and talk about the shampoo. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
So nobody knows that shit, but game companies, they have a much closer relationship with their players and, hyping up what's coming out next and updates and DLCs and patches. I mean, all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, here's an example. I heard all these rumors about people saying that Reese's peanut butter cups don't taste as good as they used to. And there's this one lady, I wish I could like promote her right now. She has a TikTok and a YouTube channel where she looks into stuff like that. She's a chemist. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she found out that they don't use the same materials anymore. They use a bunch of shittier forms of sugar and some shit that's like practically plastic. And like, she's like, yeah, no wonder they don't taste as good. So that's like the equivalent of a patch. You know what I mean? Like if that was a game company, they would be getting destroyed on YouTube for the fucking high fructose corn syrup patch. You know what I'm saying? Like they'd be getting obliterated for that patch. But no, they get away with it for the most part. But game companies, they have to defend their shit. So there's a much closer connection.
Of course. Make some new shapes, bro. I like mac and cheese.
Exactly.
The same. They need to make some new shapes. I don't know what they're gonna do though. No, and it is true. Like I kind of, it's funny taking it back over to a different section. I kind of remember when they used to do like the whole map packs for like COD, right?
Right.
And COD would give map packs, and like that's one of the things that I find, because I am really big with the like developers aren't lazy. I actually find it very disingenuous. I find it very disingenuous, very lazy, very just it's so misinformed.
Right.
Because they have no clue what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
But these are like gamers, as much as I love them, they are also some of the loudest dumb fucks in the room. And so
yeah, they can be. Yeah.
Like Dunning-Kruger is a thing, and it is full of it. But I feel like that's one of the reasons why I do these is to try to bridge that gap a little bit. But it's also, in some regards, I feel like it's a kind of a catch-22 for developers. Because it's like, I feel like, and this is just me, I feel like at some portions, they're like, yes, I would love to go and say, I'm a developer, I work on this kind of game, this is the reason why. And obviously, and within NDA agreement, but there's also so much vitriol from those gaming communities that you're just placing a target on your back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, as with anything internet, the vocal minority overwhelms everything. You know what I mean? So you're going to have the most negative, most hateful people shout out over everybody. But yeah, I think it is unfortunate. So many of my game dev colleagues, when they find out how much, like I talk with my players almost every single day, just chatting about any random crap, football, real life, game stuff too. And a lot of my colleagues are like, you're insane.
Speaking of which, it's like 17-17 right now.
Is it really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Intense.
They're in overtime, too, so it's like been super intense.
Yeah. This is do you have a dog in this fight? I assume you hate the Bears.
No, my team decided to shit their pants.
I was going to say, you hate the Bears, right? Aren't you a Packers fan?
No, I'm not a Packers fan.
Oh, you're not?
I'm a Texans fan. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
my team
okay.
shit their pants today.
That's too bad. That's rough.
That's
rough.
It was bad.
Yeah, sorry to hear that, man. All I knew about that game, one of my players on the sports channel of our game, all he said was, "It looks like Stroud is intentionally trying to throw this game." That's
like there's some of those throws were like, I'm a person that's like, okay, sometimes like, yes, is it a pick? Yes, is it technically his fault? Sure. Should the receiver have caught it?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, was he just not paying attention? Because there's multiple things that can go into it.
Yep.
Stroud
no, I love football. This is my team right here. This is my main team.
Georgia.
That's where I went to law school.
That makes sense. And that's the thing that got me with it too, is because the fact of like Stroud, the way it reminded me of like if you were like a dude who was playing college football like 26 and you're just starting to like, all right, put it on the hardest difficulty. And now you just threw 4 picks and you're like, damn, maybe they were good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah,
But
I'm not happy.
yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
But yeah, no. But I was saying, like, yeah, so I hang out with my players all the time, and some of my colleagues are like, "You're crazy." And there are definitely times where that level of connection can bite me in the ass. You know what I'm saying? Like there are definitely times where, say, I catch somebody cheating and I have to deal with it, or somebody has something they want to be changed in the game, or I make a balance change and they take it personally. Like there are some negatives, but I do think that the positives outweigh the negative. But if our community was bigger, I don't know if it might flip the other way, you know? So maybe I'm somewhat lucky though that our community is smaller. So, but yeah, I think most game developers, they're afraid to get out there. They don't want to, first of all, they're not really trained. You know, that's the thing too, is like I am, while when I speak publicly, people will often think like I'm very, he's an extrovert, whatever. He's very talkative and everything like that. But it's not true. Like I can turn it on when I need to, but
yeah,
as my wife said, you're the most autistic fucker I've ever met. She said that to me one time when I thought I wasn't. But yeah, and a lot of gamers and a lot of game developers are neurodivergent, and they're not built for, that kind of public, speaking. They're certainly not built for handling criticism right in their face, especially criticism of things that they know they freaking busted their ass on, that is this their baby that they're passionate about. The people who criticize things, they don't realize sometimes that like you're shitting on something that person may have slaved over for months or years, They also don't understand that sometimes the thing you're mad about, they also are mad about, like they couldn't make it work as well as they would. I always tell when I teach, I always tell my students, game development is the same as all software development, but what we do has to also be fun. And that's actually hard as fuck, because what's fun? Like fun is an amorphous concept. You know it when you see it, but it's really hard to define it. And you can work on a game system for 6 months and have all the greatest plans, and you put it in the game and you play it and it sucks. And you're like, what the fuck? Or it's mid, maybe you code a fishing system for your MMO and it's just okay. It's like, all right, fine. It's not bad. You catch fish, but it's not engaging, and then you're bummed. And then someone comes and shits on it, and they don't understand that, especially in a big company, maybe your fishing system didn't get approved. And if they did it your way, it would have been awesome, So you're defending a system that wasn't even the way you wanted it to be, or it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to. You wish you had another 6 months to make it better, but you didn't. Now they're shitting on it, and they're saying it's because you're lazy and stupid. And you want to be like, look, dude, fuck you. I wanted to make it as good as I could. I tried as hard as I could, but I got all these other hurdles. You know what I mean? Like, by the way, right in the middle of working on it, the guy I was working on it got laid off. You know what I mean? Like, so I lost my buddy, that was helping me on the system. And there's so many things that could go wrong, and so that can be really frustrating. And not everyone's built. I mean, I'd say most people are not built to handle that kind of situation. They're not built to handle that kind of aggressive personal attack. Someone would say it's not personal, it's their work, but like, no, most game developers care about what they do a lot, because the reality is game developers, especially coders and artists, are in the world of coding and art are some of the highest, most talented at those skills, which is why they're able to work in the game industry. In a weird way, the next tier down are more likely to be in the business side of things that pays like 5 times as much and has 10 times the job security. So it's coding and art is really weird. Like the people that are the most talented are frequently going into the industry, video games, that doesn't pay as well and doesn't have job security and is tons harder. It's a weird thing. And people don't realize that too. They may not realize that, like, for the last 6 months, someone worked on a game. Every month they were worried they were going to get a pink slip, and they're like, you realize what it's like to work into that environment? And I just moved my whole family from, New York to California. And now every single month I'm worried I'm about to get laid off, and I'm supposed to be creative in this environment. There's I've kind of hopped around, but there's a million layers to like what fucks with someone's ability to do their best work.
No, absolutely. And I think that's where a lot of the players disconnect. Because one of the things you mentioned earlier was like you make this game, you're working for it, and someone comes up and they're just like, it's just mid. And
Yeah.
you're like, and that's why I'm really big on like articulating what you mean by that.
Right.
Because I think there can be criticism within stuff. Like, there's definitely criticism within in some work. Things like mid, things like trash, or just it's just trash, it's whatever.
Yeah.
And I tell people, you can be right. You could be absolutely right. It could be the biggest garbage thing in the world. But if you can't actually like this goes back to like elementary school when they tell you to show your work on a math problem.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, if you can't articulate it, it's not actionable. And another layer of what you're saying, and I bet you I know this is where you would go next, there's also a huge difference between this is shit and this isn't for me. Like there's a huge difference. And whenever I talk about games, especially with my students or friends, I always try to be really clear. I think this, or especially if they ask me my opinion about something in a game, I have two huge differences. This I think is objectively bad, like this is bad game design, or this is not for me game design. You know, giant difference. Like there are things like take Fortnite, for example, which I think is an incredibly brilliant game, right? Like there's not like vivid character outline. This is going to be nitpicky, but like I can't see other characters. I don't know what it is about my vision, my age, whatever. When I tried to play Fortnite, I can't even tell where other people are. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, is there a way to turn on like a silhouette outline or a highlight or something? I'm like, no, there's not. Whereas some games, they really want to contrast the silhouettes of characters so you can see them really clearly. You know what I mean? It's like a part of their art style. That works for me. Whatever the way Fortnite does theirs, I think they do it on purpose. You know what I mean? Like it's part of the skill of the game, picking out the characters from the environment, using the environment to like obscure yourself. You know what I mean? I think that's part of the game. So I would not call that objectively bad, because if they changed it, it would change the game. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, everybody would stand out like they're sticking out like a sore thumb, and I don't think that's what they want. You know, like so that is something that's not for me. The way Fortnite graphically renders its characters, like I'm screwed. I can't see anybody, so I'm fucked. But I don't think that's objectively bad. It's an art style decision that I think is perfectly defendable, and clearly works because I think it's a great game.
I would say like, I mean, you mentioned it being defendable, which I actually absolutely agree, because it, in a sense, you look at the art style for Fortnite and it's so appeasing, especially if you are a younger person. It's so appeasing to the eye. And that is something that I love talking about, because actually this is one of my biggest takes, I would say, quote unquote, is the fact that I think GTA 5 is one of the most unappealing to look at games ever. And I get people who are like, wow, what? It's GTA, but because first of all, I'm just shitting on GTA, which I'm not. But like I look at it and I'm like, man, like if I could go play one in this time, I would rather go play Vice City, because the 80s aesthetic, the neon lights.
I know, I agree with you.
80s
I'm with you on this a million. Like, I've never been able to play a GTA game for any extended period of time, but I played shitloads of Vice City, loved it. I absolutely agree. Of course, Rockstar is a perfect example of not for me versus objectively bad. Like, I don't know what it is about their games. They are just not for me. Like, maybe I like good guys. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's part of it. I don't like the moral grayness. Maybe, you know, I'm not good at being bad. Like a villain. You know what I'm saying? Like I remember when I played, one of my all-time favorite games is Knights of the Old Republic. And I played through it the first time, you know, light side, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I heard the dark side is totally different. I want to play it. So we went on some planet. I did some villainous shit. Get back on the ship, and the companions that I just played 100 hours with on the good side, they just look at me. I walk up to them. They're like, "Wow, I'm really disappointed." And I was just like, I was devastated that the companions, these fake characters in this new playthrough, were just disappointed in me. And I was like, "That's it, delete." So it was brilliant. But that's why, like, so Rockstar games, there's things about their just general, like, you know, the school bully game. I didn't really love that. And just, you know, the whole, you know, killing hookers and stuff. I don't know. It's just not for me. At the same time, I acknowledge their
that's
games are brilliant. Their games are
fair.
clearly brilliant.
Definitely got bored with them, and I mean, it stopped being games and just felt like showing you how disgusting the real world is. And
Yeah,
we already have the real world for that,
dude. Word, especially now. Yeah, no doubt. That's the way. That's for me. But at the same time, GTA 6 is going to sell freaking $2 billion worth of copies. It's going to be ridiculous. I feel terrible for the games that are going to accidentally come out around the same time as whenever they finally launch. Those poor games.
It's gonna feel it makes me laugh, but it makes me feel of how like Oblivion felt.
Yeah,
this last year when Oblivion Remaster dropped, and then the next day Expedition 33 dropped.
I know, it's brutal. So I have a little bit of a hate boner, I think, for Rockstar, right? I just, I like I said, it's a preference thing. I don't like the style. I don't like the super negative style, right? When I say like a personal preference thing, the company itself, I got no problems with. You know what I mean? Like Rockstar, great company, whatever. This will never happen, but my little weird, sick, and twisted dream is that Gabe has got freaking Half-Life 3 ready, and he's waiting, and he hates them too. And GTA 6 will come out, and then he's going to drop Half-Life 3 free.
Free.
Just free. Like, and then it'll be free to play. Have some, some PV, some like mode, some kind of co-op mode, whatever, for skins and shit. That there's I don't even have a rumor of this. Okay, this is pure fantasy, right? It's the only thing I can think of that could potentially mog on GTA 6. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's getting less because less and less people remember Half-Life. So my little fantasy is losing its ability to even exist. But that's my little sick and twisted fantasy of what happens to push GTA 6 off to the side. A free Halo 3. I mean, not Halo 3, Half-Life 3.
The anticipation for GTA 6 right now, for all the people who are, and I'm like, if you are enjoying it, go right ahead.
Yeah.
That's all on you. That's not me. I'm like, there are so many good titles that are coming out, and I'm gonna be honest, like I am super, super stoked. Also, Sense, I thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. You had some great comments.
Yes, thank you so much. Take care, Sense. And like, I'm just so like, I'm not a GTA. I wouldn't call myself a GTA hater, but it never is one of those that'll appeal to me. And I think it's one that I don't get me wrong, I'll still play. I got the 5 when it was for the Xbox One. It's still uploaded onto there, so every once in a while I just drive around when I don't want to drive in Forza. I do that a lot. Like I drive around in Forza, like don't play anything, just cruise. But I think with GTA is one of those because it's just such a release for so many people.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why it's going to go through the it's going to go through the roof is all the people who are like GTA 6 sucks when it's been out for like 4 hours.
Oh yeah, of course. First of all, there's no way it's going to suck. They won't ship it until it's at least amazing. You know what I mean? Like, at least, it probably still won't. I'll probably still play it. It probably still won't be for me. I try all their games. Red Dead Redemption 2. I tried it. I played it like 2 hours. I don't know what it is. Like, but I think that's the case. I think some studios. This is gonna sound weird. In a weird way, I respect the fact that they have such a style that they stay true to. That therefore I never like any of their games. You know what I'm saying? Like they clearly have a design ethos and philosophy where they make a Rockstar game. And so therefore I'm not going to like it, but it means they've stayed true to their formula. You know what I mean? Like they're not falling prey to that. We need to reach a broader market bullshit that you see, everyone watering down all their franchises because they want to well, we only made $1 billion. We need to make $1.5 billion. So let's abandon our core market and let's try to appeal to 12-year-old girls who love Barbie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I would say Atlas does that really well too. Persona, Shinigami Tensei, like they know what their lane is and they're okay with it because they know for a fact no one else is going to try to touch this.
Yeah, now I will differentiate what I just said from if you're making a multiplayer game, if you're not reaching entire, not genre demographics, but age, gender, race demographics, in that case, I think you should ask yourself why. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is a huge difference. Like I'm saying, like, if you make first person shooters and you don't understand why you're not getting, card game players to play your game, and so you got to add card game mechanics to your next shooter, like that's kind of dumb. Unless you do it in a brilliant way, that can be done cleverly. You know what I mean? Like anything done brilliantly is different. That's a whole other category.
Back 4 Blood tried that, where they were like, "Hey, this is a spiritual success." And I've seen companies, and this is one of the last topics I want to talk about, because I've seen companies pull this shit, where they're like, "Hey, this is from the developers of Left 4 Dead," and I'm like. I feel like you're doing this on purpose, and it puts a target on their back.
Yeah, because
no reason.
Then it's not a shooter. It's not like if you're going to say that, it needs to be philosophically at least similar to that game. Don't say from the creators of Left 4 Dead and it's a freaking deck builder or some shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, no, I think that's a mess. But if you make games and like no women play it, you need to ask yourself why no women play it. You know what I mean? If only like white frat boys play your game, you need to ask yourself why. You know what I mean? What's in my game that's making it only appealing to these people? Those situations, that's a type of diversity I think you should always ask yourself. But if it's genre, you know what I mean, or if it's like we're really dark and gritty, people who hate dark and gritty don't play our game, how can we change that? No. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. Don't abandon critical things like that. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, and that's so true too. Because especially with like, because I feel like that's what people have an argument with COD over, is like, oh well, COD's they're just cheating. They're jumping after whatever trend. I'm like, they used to be a trendsetter. They're not anymore.
Right.
They're kind of that old man in the room at this point. Like they're just sitting and relaxing.
Yeah.
But I do want to say I appreciate you being here.
Thanks a lot. I loved it. Yeah, it was a great time.
Absolutely, and we'll definitely do this again.
Sure thing.
The questions always is, where can they find you and all else your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably the easiest place to find me, my company, is just Frogdice. The easiest thing to remember is probably just Frogdice, Frogdice. So if they go to my website, frogdice.com, they can find all of our games. If they're looking for me specifically and just me spouting off about random shit, I do have a YouTube channel. I'm trying to see if it's Prof Hartman or Professor Hartman. I haven't updated it in a bit because we were renovating our basement, but it's at Prof Hartman, that's the YouTube. I'll put it in there. And then I'm also Professor Hartman on Blue Sky. So if they want to hear me randomly going off about random bullshit topics, Blue Sky, Professor Hartman on Blue Sky, Professor Hartman on YouTube. But if they want to check out my games, Frogdice.
Frogdice. You guys hear that? Frogdice. So remember that. And
that's the easiest. Frogdice is the easiest. From there you can find everything else.
That's so true.
Appreciate
and for
it.
everybody else, if you guys see too, you can catch me on Twitch, YouTube. That's where you'll see a majority of these. I'm going to be starting to stream more on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok all three at the same time. So you guys will be able to check that out as well. Instagram, Threads, Facebook. I said this earlier, so I'm kind of like done saying it. But like I said, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate everybody else in the comments.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And just been amazing. You guys have been an amazing audience as well.
Yeah.
So,
can I say one more thing about
course.
you? Like, I follow and watch tons of gaming media, huge streamers, small streamers. Like, I rarely dig someone enough to even pop in and say hi. I just thought you had such a unique, I actually think you had a really unique takes and vibe, and you just, that's why I popped in and actually spoke on your channel. So I just want to say I'm glad. I really dig what you're doing. I think it's awesome.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's fun. I'm not gonna lie. This has been fun as hell, and also it stops me from being bored. So
yeah, absolutely.
But for everybody else, I'll talk to y'all later, everyone. I'm Taylor from Afro Fish OG, and I will catch you all in the next one.